And let's get started. Please sit up straight on enough height that you can sit up straight. This can be a tricky business, kind of negotiating between your wish for yourself and reality. So I always say go for reality first. So sit up high enough. Be realistic. That means use your senses. Pull yourself up straight, right from the pelvis. Outer hips, hip sockets down. Buttock bones, which are a little more centrally located, down. Armpits away from hip sockets. The armpits mean the rib cage, sides of the ribs. The arms themselves, the shoulder girdle itself, releases away from the spine and away from the skull, as always. But these side ribs come up. Sides of the spine come up from the butt bones to the base of the skull. Close your eyes. I have to move the cat. Keep your attention in. So, excuse me, stay put for a bit. Here. Point being, put distance between the four corners of this trunk, lower and upper, vertical space. Keep that vertical space on the back, from the back buttock to the back corner of the armpit, as much as the front groin front. So there's kind of multiple ways of squaring this pose. I'm calling it squaring. And the shoulder sockets, rib cage, shoulder girdle broadens horizontally, and this pelvis broadens. So there's a clear rectangle. Join your palms. Adjust that rectangle. Line up the two sides of the musculature of the neck from this base of the skull, right under, behind the ear, down. So there's musculature, and then there's the vertebrae themselves, a little bit deeper in. Release the arms away from the skull, away from the spine. Release the legs away from the skull and away from the spine. Let the nervous system settle the consciousness settle. And in this way, we practice. In this way, we begin this practice, paying homage to all the teachers who came before this moment, all the way back to that root teacher, Patanjali. And bow to your practice. Release your hands, raise your head, and open your eyes. Now, stretch your legs. Change the crossing. So you've got the rectangle. Sides long, front and back long, the three-dimensional rectangular shape. Okay, that shape has diagonals. Okay, left hip, right shoulder, right hip, left shoulder. So the arms and legs can be used to increase your bilateral symmetry, your squareness. But raise your right arm, left arm down, right arm pressing on something for support. Pull up. Now in this pull, you can stretch right hip socket to right arm. Right buttock to right thumb. If your palm is facing in, that arm is rotated, palm in. Back of the hip socket down, thumb up. Groin down, front hip socket down, pinky finger up. Okay, so release. So there's that straight line stretch. But there's also the diagonal. Okay. So from this buttock, from this hand, stretch. You see how the shirt starts going. So when you do that, this hip gets light, put it back down. Shift back and release. Come up, left arm. Stretch the vertical. Stretch and give support on side 2 to increase this just linear stretch, vertical stretch. This hip stays down, but you're really concerned about this side. This is where your senses are. Now, can you set up a diagonal? Pull up and then sit back down. So it's like you deliberately shift and then create a diagonal extension. Come out. Watch. Virasana with the knees apart. Adho Mukha Virasana, arms parallel. Keep watching. I go to my right, and this left side stretches in that straight line fashion. Okay. So what you want to do is after doing the linear, you're going to put this arm out to the perpendicular, how shall I say, really perpendicular. So I'm right, parallel, perpendicular. So it's over here. I go from that linear stretch of the left side, perpendicular. And now I push a bit and I release this hip. And I shift from this side to this side. Try to go for the diagonal. See what happens. Go forward. We're going to try both sides. And just reserve judgment till you try both sides. Take the support you need and go forward, including support under the head. Make it easy and stretch the parallels. Outer hips, buttock bones, inner thighs, lengthen the spine. Go outer rib stretch all the way to the armpits, through them to the collarbones. Keep the arms released away from the skull, away from the spine. Even here, just by pushing through the arms, more with one, more with the other, you can create parallels, or with your attention, shift that push to a diagonal. Does that make sense? Now go to your right side. Your whole spine moves over or toward the right knee. And you still keep what you might call a parallel stretch, but it's increased on the left side. Support your head somehow. Now really study the extension through that side of the spine, two arms parallel. Then keep the right arm stretching. And you have to figure out exactly where to put it so you have some support there. And then push perpendicular, left arm. Raise your trunk. You may not feel a diagonal, but do you understand how you're creating one? You are extending now through that right shoulder. The left hand, if you're over your right knee, your left hand is perpendicular and your right arm is long. And you want to push between the right hand and the left buttock. Make a line that goes back to the left groin, left buttock. And it might be hard to find, okay? That's why you reserve judgment. Come out carefully and back to the center for a bit. And if you need to sit up, sit up. And if not, just be symmetrical for a moment and then go the other way, off to your left side. Two arms stretching, very conventional Parshva Adho Mukha Virasana. Study what's going on in the hips, in that low back sacroiliac joint. Okay. Now, Keep the left arm extended and perpendicular right arm. So you give a little push to open the length of the left side. So you get kind of the left side parallel. And then go for that diagonal. The way away hip, right back hip goes down. Left armpit, shoulder, rib cage, away. There's a crossover from one side to the other. Is there a crossover? Or are you just pushing with one hand and pushing with one hip, like no connection between them? Come out slowly back to the center and sit up. Then, Adho Mukha Svanasana. You feel free to use a strap if need be, but try not to. Try without. I think that's best. Take a shorter duration pose if you need. Start with the hands and feet parallel, so you're working the parallels. Don't forget to roll those triceps in as you come up. Don't forget to release the neck as you come up. Raise the heels. Extend the sides of the body as if that was all that existed in this pose. The outer heels, outer calves, knees, hips, pull away from the outer side, waist, ribs, outer shoulder blades, arms. Even the triceps, the outer arm is stretching. And then as you push through the thumb and the inner palm, that stretch goes to the inner line, the inner parallels, the spine, the inner body. Keep that skull soft. That stretch in this inner body goes back and through the inner legs. Stretch your knees. Cindy Schleimer, raise the heels a bit to make it easier to get that outer knee stretch. Straighten those legs. Okay, come out. So that's the parallels. Let's do this a way many of us are familiar with. This is a just hands and knees pose. Okay, and it's quite square, right? All your corners are square. But then you stretch your right leg back and instantly think, if you're not thinking, the pose gets a little askew. So it's work to maintain the square and raise the leg. Now you're gonna do a kind of diagonal. The left arm lifts, right leg, left arm. So it's not so much extension, but stability in the pose has to do a crossover. So come up, kneel. Move your knees together, not apart. You don't want to have your hips shifting. And you can turn your toes under so the toe print is on the floor and the heel is up. That is often more stable. Okay. Now, lengthen that spine. Roll the triceps in so that top chest broadens. Shoulders broaden. Don't lose that. Now, your right leg stretches back, toes on the floor at first, until you fully stretch that leg and recover the square. Then you raise the leg just to level with the spine. Stretch the leg back through the toes. Keep the square. Look somewhat forward. Keep your neck soft. Eyes gazing to infinity. And look, raise the opposite arm, left arm. Now find your square. Again, broaden those shoulders. Find that square and then extend through the back thigh as much as the front. Lift the navel, Emilia, and release, come out. All fours, and you can sit back to Adho Mukha Virasana for a rest. Now, what's interesting about that is that I am insisting you maintain that physical square. Yeah, hip square, spine, two sides parallel, front and back parallel. You want that sort of three-dimensional rectangle to not deform as the pose goes on. But to maintain that square, did you not notice there was a diagonal, an internal diagonal of strength? Go to side two, hands and knees together. Find the square. As long as all four limbs are on the floor, the diagonals are obscured. They're harder to find. Now, when you stretch the left leg back, you have to start interacting. Keep the broadness of the shoulders, squareness of the hips, raise that leg. Toes point straight down from the groin, stretch that back thigh. Buttock. Then look somewhat forward and raise the right arm. Looking forward, keep the navel lifted and the hips square. Spread your toes. Keep those hips square. Release, come out. Have a seat. So when you repeat this, just make a note. It's hard for me to show at this angle. I know I can quickly. Sorry if I give anybody vertigo. Not to worry. Maybe you can see from a different angle. So you can kind of see my back now. So it's from above. When I take a leg back, there should be no loss of length in this back rectangle. As you raise the leg, you should not collapse the back. That back has to lift and extend from this navel. You have to lift. This pelvis has to lift and extend. So creating that is asymmetrical. When you raise this leg, this arm, the diagonal starts really being, you begin to really be able to extend. Do you see that? Little bit, do it. Don't just go for the square, this round. Go for that fullest extension, right arm to left leg, without distorting the back, without distorting the square. Stretch the leg, keep the inner body lined up, maybe lifted, that's better, and stretch powerfully. Now raise the opposite arm, look where you will to keep steady. And stretch, organize that alignment. Don't raise the arm too much, Amelia. Go forward through the thumb, backward to the heel, toes point straight down, Amelia, straighter down. Yes, more. To do that, you've got to lift and extend through the inner foot. Raise the arm, Cindy. Stretch that armpit, and out you come. Okay, rest a bit, then change sides. I'm going to shift my camera back. Okay, please go. Stretch that leg, stretch that leg. Make it so that this movement is pulling length through the sides of the spine. Lift the navel, move those buttocks, turn that toe down, reach through the big toe side of that foot. Hips level, stretch your legs, Cindy. Push through the big toe. Push more like you're wearing spike heels, Cindy. Push through the big toe. Yes, now see if that helps make the legs get longer. Draw out that groin. Push through the big toe. All the way through the opposite thumb. And release, come out. And rest. Adho Mukha Virasana. Then you're going to retry Adho Mukha Svanasana. And to give yourself a quiet, symmetrical rest. And come up as correctly as you know how. So same rule, Cindy, raise the heels and it'll help you get more. What I see in this pose is a bit of bend in the knee. I know the back of the leg is stiff, so it gets help by raising the heel and then pushing, pulling up. Also, so you see this opening distance between the hands and feet. Making this rectangle of the sticky mat big. Make that rectangle of sticky mat between your hands and feet big. Walk your feet 2 inches further back. And raise the heels and keep them raised. There you go. Now push back more. Do you feel that, Cindy? You get more space there. Don't lower the heel, just create space in that rectangle of trunk. You too, Gay, you can move space between hands and feet. Lengthen. And out you come. Now, time for a standing pose or two. Get let's see. It's nice to have a wall. So there I go, getting a view of my wall. And I think a brick, or if you're stiff, a chair, but you'll need some support for your hand. Watch what I do first and you'll see the wall comes first. Feet parallel. Then the feet come apart and they come wide apart. And you turn. How far away from the wall do you go? You go far enough. Watch this line. Back heel to front arm. Straight line. Yeah. Now, I have to, as much as possible, keep my awareness of that diagonal. Okay, back heel to front arm. I'm not pushing on the wall. I'm just keeping that grounding, this stretch to lift, and the shift to this side extension. This leg grounded, extending, this side extending. Then you go to brick or chair, and you maintain from the push of this back heel. Lengthen and stretch your front hip. Now, your right leg is perpendicular, you might say, to your left leg. So push your right foot into the floor, lengthen the right leg toward the left, and you'll get more extension to go through that right side. Turn the ribs. Look up as your neck permits. Now, stretch this arm back, top arm back, and come forward through your bottom or right ribs, left arm back, right ribs, right armpit forward. Now, arms stretching away from each other. Now, inhale, come up, turn the feet, bring the feet together. So that's a long enough pose. You might need a chair for support. This is up to you. Make sure you support so you have time in this pose. Now, you can rearrange your sticky mat. I have the luck of having this little wall-like pillar here.
Are we and side on the first pose?
Sorry.
Are we going to do the on the first pose?
Second side of first pose. That's what we're up to. Ready? Take your feet apart. I see some of you are going to your right side. Go. Are we on? Tell me. Did you do side one? No. Yes? No? Then do, some of you did. Please do the first side. If you've already done it, do your first side again. Let's keep it together. Okay, some of you have done, some of you have not done the first side. Okay, find your diagonal. Take a long stance, it will help. Reach out, touch the wall, just for minor support so you can reinforce what's going on in those legs. Longer stance, Chaya, if you can. Yes. Then the hand comes down by lengthening both the right and the left side. Don't shorten. Then your top arm reaches back parallel to the spine as your trunk comes forward. Then the arm goes perpendicular, stretching away from the grounded arm. Turn your ribs, release that trunk. And inhale, come up, keep both sides long. Okay, now side two. Use a touch place for, now it's the left arm as you lengthen through that trunk. Long stance. Ground right heel. Reach out through the left arm, connected to the right leg in a straight line. So Cindy, keep the arm and armpit opened, bend from the hips to take yourself toward Trikonasana. Turn that left thigh. Push from the left foot into the left buttock to keep that right side long, left side long. Then you come down to your brick. Maintain the length of that left side, left leg. Chaya, if you can, straighten the left knee. Push the foot on the floor, it can help. Then that top arm, right arm stretches parallel to the spine, away from the skull. Then it reaches perpendicular to the spine. Open that trunk. Keep the arms and legs extending. Classical Trikonasana. Look toward the ceiling if the neck accepts this. If it doesn't, it's because you don't have the parallels in the neck going right. Now, look level with the floor. Inhale, come up. Back leg, front leg, top arm, bottom arm. Turn the feet. Bring the feet together. Now, that took long enough. Let's take Parshvakonasana in less time, but with the same intensity, observing the interchange between the parallels and the crossovers. So the feet go wide apart, and according to your hip, you can put this brick in front. This helps this hip bend in a way that's easier to tolerate. You can put it behind. If that hip bends quite well and the thigh bone stays in the socket properly, if you've got that going, then put your brick behind. Now, it's a long stance, you know, it's the one where the thigh is horizontal and the shin is vertical. So here you go from upright and you stretch your arms. Be conscious of this shoulder, back foot diagonal. Be conscious of these two lines staying vertical. You got both of those things going. And this diagonal, this knee to that shoulder, this knee to that shoulder. Now, when you come out, more diagonals show up. There's this obvious one, right heel, left arm. Keep this thigh tucking, or you can't get the length. Bring your hand down. Tall brick helps. Medium brick if the hip is open. Now, press those feet. This thigh comes, outer thigh tucks into the hip socket so you can lengthen. Now stretch the left arm back parallel to the spine and lift your chest. Push from your right foot to your left thumb. Then take the arm up. Then take the arm over. Clearly, this is a side stretch. The whole name of the pose is Parshva Konasana. But shift the side, push from your heels to that right armpit. Look up, come out. You can just straighten your leg, or you can come up classically. Turn your feet, bring your feet together. Stand on your legs together or apart. If this is very strenuous for you, and I mean not just in the breath of the muscles, but I mean in the nervous system, then separate the feet. Okay? So shift, get ready for side two, and take your feet apart. Wide apart. So you've got some rectangles, some squares, parallels, and you've got some diagonals to account for. Turn. More diagonals. You feel instant diagonals. Now, when you bend the knee, keep this right arm away from the left groin. Keep your right heel connected to the lift of both sides, parallels. Now, out and over you go. Parallel stretch, diagonal stretch. Both of them must be created and maintained. Right heel to right armpit. Left heel to right armpit. Right heel to left armpit. Left hip to left armpit. Parallels, diagonals. Stretch your right arm back, lifting that chest. Stretch the arm perpendicular. See what happens in the trunk, here and here. Take the arm overhead. This is obvious. Now, make that left armpit, left side trunk open, back up. And up you come. Turn the feet, bring the feet together, stand with the feet joined or the feet apart, and take Uttanasana. So begin in Uttanasana, of course, stretching your parallels. Let your head hang. And if the hands don't go to the floor, put bricks under the fingers. If you are very comfy in your flexibility, yes, you can cross those elbows and hang. This has to be comfortable, not a strain. Now ground those feet evenly and stretch the legs. Stretch the linear stretch, parallels. Square the hips, square the shoulders. Lengthen the sides of the trunk from hips to armpits. Side waist, side pelvis, side armpit, sides the neck. Keep hanging, stay there, hang. If you're very stiff and you need to come up, come all the way up. But don't be going back and forth. I wish for this to be restful. And you just breathe. Now you can study without hardly even doing anything. You can observe the diagonal, so to speak. How does the right chest, left pelvis interact as you breathe? Just study that one diagonal for a second. Right pelvis, left lung. Do they have any connectivity? All you're doing is inhaling, exhaling. You're not changing, you're not shifting the weight on your feet. You're staying in a physical, symmetrical pose. All you're doing is observing how the breath moves. And you let that go for a few moments. And you see if you can find the opposite diagonal. Right shoulder, left groin. It's not like nowhere else breathes. That breath occurs as it normally does. But you are looking to see that that breath is connected. There is no little blank spot in the connectivity. Release, come out. Now, Parivrita Trikonasana. I'd suggest a chair. And you're going to your right side. So now we're messing with the parallels in the hips. And then by twisting, of course, we're really messing with the parallels. So the first thing to do when you're heading toward Parivrita Trikonasana is to keep the sides of the trunk. I'll show from. That's Archer. Hard to see. He's elusive. Okay, right leg forward. I'll take this up so you see more. As you go forward, these two sides of the trunk have to keep the parallels. If you see my foot, the leg can't lose its parallels. Inner foot, outer foot, keep interacting. Keep your parallels. And as you come forward to Parivrita, there is a diagonal. This opposite side crosses over to the first side. And it's not a curl. It's an extension and rotation. So don't lose the parallels. Bring that chair, Cindy, in closer and take a longer stance. More space between your front foot and back foot. Walk your front foot forward so it's more under the chair. And if there's a lot of stiffness, just put a brick under your hand or stay with the straight arm on the chair. Stretch both legs, inner and outer. Gay, you can also take a longer stance. Move your right foot forward under the chair. Closer, even your shin can touch that chair. Take length. Bring the hips forward and fold forward, keeping the length and squareness. That looks good, Chaya. Right side long, left side long. Both legs are contributing to the parallels as well as the crossovers. Now spread those shoulders, stretch your right arm alongside the ribs, and lift your chest away from that. This is parallels. Now take the arm up as it would be classically, straight up to vertical. Spread across those shoulders, much more Karen Higgins. Karen Laplace. Open that chest, open those collarbones. Hand to the hip if they won't open. Make it easier to get the armpit shoulder socket moving. Time to come out. So take stock, come out one thing at a time. And stand up and join the feet and be in Tadasana with the feet together or the feet apart. And I'm quite serious about feet apart being quicker to quiet the intensity that comes from doing strong standing poses for a few minutes at a time, regardless of support. Side two. Oops. So don't forget, when that foot comes forward, it's really close to the chair. It's right up there under the chair. It makes it so much easier for you to get the support. If it's out here, it can be less support, and you can always lower it down. Onto the elbow, you can always get a brick and put it under your form, a brick or a couple of blankets, whatever you need. Whatever helps you keep the line straight so there can be connectivity. Stretch from the heels, stretch your legs. So you put the left hand on the hip, and then that left side can, you can start being aware of its length. It just gets incurred. That's already, that looks better. Is that screamy or dreamy? Roll those ribs down. Emilia, you could even hold with your fingers, Emilia, on the chair seat, and that will give you perhaps, I don't know if it'll aggravate the biceps. I don't want it to, but the idea is to drag back with that arm, that back shoulder, to compel the rib cage forward. Are you ready? Stretch that top arm back parallel. Oh, arm, raise your head, Gay. Yeah, just the, yes. Then maybe the shoulder rolls. Arm back and down. Then up to the ceiling if the shoulder is ready for it. If it isn't, it goes back to the hip. And spread, you just spread. This is diagonals, parallels. Bring your shoulder closer to the camera, Karen Laplace. Hip away, chest toward. Hip away, chest toward. Yeah, much better. Okay, come out consider first, then one thing at a time. Now, take the feet wide apart, Prasarita Padottanasana. You feel free to use a chair, or if you're reasonably flexible, you hang down. If the head does not quite go to the floor, if there's a few inches, take a brick or a few blankets, feet wide apart, feet parallel, legs straight. So straight is not just front and back parallel to each other, but also the inner leg and outer leg must balance. If the muscle of the leg is a bit weak, there'll be a sense of collapse on the inner leg. So see if you can press on the floor evenly through the foot and generate a sense of lift that comes up through the inner leg to the, even through the inner groin, so it makes the sacrum light. Like there's a belt around your waist lifting, and it just keeps the pelvis light. Press the feet. Lighten up the pelvis. Stretch the legs. Now, out you come. Carefully, if you need to bring the legs together because there you feel the joints in trouble, do so. Otherwise, firm the hips, hands to the hips. Inhale, you come up. So watch. A strap. Can you see me head? No, you can't see everything. I'll go sideways for one view. And okay, so the idea is we're going to do Supta Padangusthasana, which is like Trikonasana. Okay. Now, the leg wants to be perpendicular. That means even if you are flexible enough to catch your foot, do not use the strap instead. So this thigh stays perpendicular and this shoulder stays on the floor. So chest also perpendicular. Now you hold on with the both hands, pinning the trunk squarely on the floor. And you see how I bend my right elbow and I pull on this strap. Here's the side view. So it gives this leg some support in its work. And you can see from this side, the pelvis is level. It's not turned. Do you see that? Don't let that happen. Okay. You do Supta Padangusthasana. Leg perpendicular, leg quite straight. Use the bent right elbow as support, but keep all four corners of the trunk firmly grounded. This means you must use that left leg, the one on the floor. You have to stretch through the inner left leg, inner left groin, in order to soften the abdomen and free up the right leg. Now, stretch your left arm straight overhead, holding that strap with the right arm only on the right leg. Gate, the leg goes off to the side now. Yes. And the left arm spreads away from the right arm. Now feel all four corners of that trunk and the breathability, just how the breath moves. Now take that left arm back over the head, urdhva, not the right leg. Keep your right leg as it is. If it needs more bracing, then brace it higher, but stretch your left arm overhead, urdhva hastasana. Urdhva hastasana. Now what happens to the breath? If your pose is properly supported, you will notice a difference. If it's improperly supported, you might notice the difference, but you won't know to what to attribute it. Come out. Release from that pose, stretch both legs straight. And then prepare to change sides if for some reason you must turn around. Now, if that leg gets sore, stretching out for such a long time, you can brace the foot, brace the leg on a bolster on some higher support, or even brace the foot against the wall. So first, the left leg is perpendicular. Let it go just a tiny bit, Emilia. You're a little bit past vertical, Emilia. Yes. Now, holding with the left hand, and hopefully your support is correct. Take the leg off to the side. Keep all four corners of your trunk against the floor. Oh, the leg should be able to stay straight. Brace with that elbow, pull with the hand, give as much support as you need. And go inward into that trunk. Are the two sides of the trunks equally long? Left hip to left armpit, right hip to right armpit. Stretch your right arm perpendicular to your spine, outward, outward, not overhead, immediate, outward, yes. Observe the breath. Groins, armpits, neck, head. Then take that right arm overhead, urdhva hastasana. What changes? Something changes. Guaranteed. Look at both sides. Now, come out one thing at a time. Help that leg out. And then lie quietly with both legs straight. So now for the last bit, bend your knees, roll to the side, come up sitting. And you need to make an arrangement for Shavasana, a supported Shavasana. That cat took my pencil while I wasn't looking. Okay, here it is. She buried it. So you need some support. You take two blankets, maybe three, actually, maybe four. They're opened out as they would be for shoulder stand or headstand. And they're stacked a little bit staggered. So I say, if your blankets are thick, you might need two or three. Mine are thin-ish. They're wide and long, but they aren't thick like wool blankets. So if you see this, I have this kind of stair-stepped platform that is a few, it's like finger length high. Not very high. And then you've got a rolled, and I'm going to call it flat rolled instead of round rolled. This looks like round rolling. And this is more like flat rolling. I've got a flat surface and I roll another flat surface. So flat rolled, that's what that's called. Now, how thick that flat roll is very custom, very, right, it's very particular. This harks back to a part of Monday's class. So these buttocks tuck, buttock bones on the floor. The sacrum and lumbars find their comfort on this blanket edge. And you lie down with this flat rolled blanket underneath the neck in such a way that this throat is extended. This is a peculiar image, but it is to the point. You may please keep experimenting with that. Broad support as possible, wide blankets. Now, here's the weirdness of the image. When there is a breathing emergency in a hospital, the way a breathing tube is inserted is by this extension of the throat, top throat, neck area. So Karen, and I'm not asking you to tilt in such an extreme position that we could intubate you, but I'm steering you in that direction. It's a very open top of the neck. It's a very open boundary line between the skull and the throat. So not only, and tuck your shoulder blades, stretch your arms out to the sides, palms up. If they do not comfortably rest up, there's facing up, there's something wrong with the shoulders or the way you've set up your support. So be observant. Now, the other thing about this support of the neck is it should draw out the length of both sides of the neck It should not shorten the back of the neck in your effort to open the front. And there was mention of the ease of breathing in the top chest in that Monday class. So this support in theory, the extension of the neck, correct extension of the neck makes it easy to breathe in the top chest. We talked about the support at the base of the skull, the release of the eyes, the pupils, the senses from the surface, from the organ itself. Trace that line back. Each eye is connected both in a parallel right eye to the vision center in the right side of the brain, left eye to left brain, but they're also cross-connected, right eye to left brain, left eye to right brain. So keep your skull and all its musculature relaxed. Open the eye and look outward, slightly up above the plane of the face, slightly. When you start looking up, that's when the neck in many of us tightens. So release that neck. You've got your pillow biofeedback there. So keep the neck soft, and you're only turning the nervous system, not the body. So the eye looks up at first symmetrically. Then when you look to your right, slightly above, not turning the head, not one bit turning the physical body, just the eye. Doesn't turn severely, but it turns distinctly to look to the right. Only the eye. Disengage the skull. Now, in turning the right eye, two things can happen. One is one side of the nervous system is activated. You look to the right. The right side of the body kind of wakes up a bit. Go back to the midline and turn your eyes the other way, to the left. And in looking to the left, see if you can sort of innervate, wake up the left side senses, arm, leg, trunk. Back to the center. Now we're going over a minute, but it's worth it for this last little experiment. If you turn your eyes to the right again and see if you can, looking to the right, no physical movement except in the eye itself. Can you release back to the left side? Brain, left shoulder, left leg, looking right, release left. And then go back to the center. And change sides, left side. Almost ready. And then back to the center. Normalize that vision. And then recognize that we are a few minutes past. So I'm going to let you remain in your Shavasana. And I will say Namaskar and close the video so the next teacher can come in. So you do not have to disturb yourself at all. I'm just gonna close the camera down. You're at home. There's no commute. Namaskar. Don't have to clear the room. See you next time.